Welcome to This Explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled you're here because today we're going to fundamentally change how we look at money. When we hear the word wealth, our brains instantly jump to flashy overnight successes, right? We picture winning lottery tickets or some ultra-risky tech startup. But when you actually look at the data and the daily behaviors of the truly wealthy, the reality is entirely different. Lasting wealth, it's not an event. It's actually a quiet, deeply psychological, and honestly, a boringly reliable system. And the best part is, it's a system that absolutely anyone can replicate once you understand the rules.
Okay, let's dive into this. Picture this scenario for a second. You're in your early 30s, you sit down at your kitchen table on just a random Tuesday morning, you open up your banking app, and you see exactly $214 sitting in your account. That's not before bills, that's after everything. You immediately feel that visceral, tight anxiety in your chest. You have professional skills, you make a decent income, but somehow you're basically going backward every single month. It is incredibly uncomfortable to confront, but actually, scratch that, it's absolutely crucial. Because this exact moment of clarity, that's where real wealth building actually begins.
Because right at that kitchen table, you really have to ask yourself a hard question. Is your money owning your emergencies, or are your emergencies totally owning you? Think about it. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, an unexpected $800 car repair isn't just a minor inconvenience, it's a full-blown financial crisis. It goes straight onto a credit card at 24% interest? And suddenly one flat tire or a broken radiator is dictating your financial reality for the entire next year. You aren't in control of your life.
Which brings us right to Section 1, escaping the chaos trap. Building a defensive wall is the absolute first step to wealth. And this brilliantly illustrates the exact roadmap out of that chaos. Wealth is built across 4 distinct levels of net worth. And at each level, you have to defeat a totally different enemy. Step 1 is building a $10,000 cash buffer to defeat everyday chaos. Step 2, that's hitting $100,000, where your main enemy is impatience during this long, boring plateau. Step 3 is the $1 million mark, where your money buys you freedom, assuming you can defeat the urge to panic sell during market crashes. And finally, you have the $5 million level of multi-generational security, where the enemy becomes your own lifestyle appetite. But here's the crazy secret about all this. That very first step, just saving a $10,000 buffer, is mathematically the easiest one to achieve. But psychologically, it is the hardest climb of your entire life. Section 2, rewiring your money brain. Getting that buffer isn't just about making more income. We really have to overhaul our deeply ingrained cultural habits, and we can borrow some incredible Japanese financial wisdom to do it. The first of these rules is Mitate. Now, Americans spend billions of dollars every single year on single-purpose household gadgets. Think of an avocado slicer. We buy a tool that literally does one thing, and usually it just ends up collecting dust in a drawer. But Mitate is this resourceful practice of looking at what you already own and asking what else it could do before you run out and buy a specialized solution. A really resourceful mindset looks in the kitchen drawer, sees a regular knife, and realizes it does the exact same job as the fancy avocado slicer. Adicot is free. Buying new costs money that you could be investing. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the concept of Soroban, which actually comes from the Japanese abacus. It's all about training your brain to internalize the real math behind your purchases. So when someone with this mindset sees a price tag for a $120 jacket, their brain automatically calculates the opportunity cost. They don't just see clothing. They see 8 hours of after-tax work. Or they see 12 months of compound interest on an investment they could have made instead. When you instantly calculate that a daily purchase is actually costing you thousands in future wealth, spending becomes a highly conscious decision. It stops being just a reflex. Then there is Giri, which refers to the moral weight and obligation of owing someone. In so many modern cultures, we treat debt incredibly casually. We finance a new couch, we carry credit card balances, and we talk about a $500 monthly car payment like it's just a regular law of physics. But Giri completely reframes this. It views consumer debt as this heavy psychological burden. True wealth builders just flat out refuse to carry the weight of consumer debt. They save up, they question the purchase, they downgrade, or they simply wait. Let's move to Section 3, the mechanics of growth, and see how this builds over time. Because once you've locked in your savings and built that initial $10,000 wall against chaos, you can't just keep hoarding cash. You have to fundamentally separate saving from investing in your mind. Savings protect your money from your own life emergencies. It's your safety money, sitting securely in cash, guarding you against disaster. But investing, that's your growth money. It's the engine that actually grows your net worth. Just saving alone, earning less than inflation, is almost never going to make you wealthy. Investing is what multiplies your wealth over the decades. And when you do start investing, you're almost definitely going to encounter this classic debate: index funds versus dividend investing. It's like a giant puzzle. Index funds allow you to own a tiny piece of the entire stock market. They offer broad diversification, incredibly low fees, and historically, they absolutely win the pure math game of total returns. But they don't pay you a regular income, which can make it super tempting to panic sell when the market drops. Dividend investing, on the other hand, means buying companies that pay you a portion of their profits in cash regularly. While it can cause some tax drag and concentration risk, seeing that cash literally arrive in your account provides massive psychological comfort during a market crash. It keeps you from doing something reckless. Ultimately, both work, as long as you just stay consistent. Section 4. Smart Debt and Systems. The stock market is just one piece of the puzzle here. If we look closely at the stealthy wealth that lasts for generations, old money, we see a fascinating system in how they view assets and debt. The foundational rule is understanding the difference between consumptive and productive assets. New money tends to buy consumptive assets to signal status. We're talking luxury cars, designer watches, massive home upgrades. These things generate a real feeling, for sure, but absolutely no financial return. Old money, however, quietly buys productive assets. They buy really boring, unglamorous businesses like commercial cleaning services or industrial cup holder manufacturing. They buy index funds. They buy rental properties. These assets don't generate a feeling, they generate reliable, compounding returns. And this mindset fundamentally changes how the wealthy use debt. Remember earlier when we talked about Giri and avoiding consumer debt? That still 100% applies to buying TVs and cars. But when it comes to acquiring productive assets, the wealthy completely decouple their emotions from debt. To them, a loan is nothing more complicated than renting money from a bank. You borrow a sum, you pay a fee for the time you hold it, and you give it back. That's the whole shebang. So the crucial point is how they use that rented money, which is a concept known as the spread. Let's say you rent money from a bank at a 4% interest rate, and you deploy that capital into an asset that earns a 7% return. You just pocketed that 3% difference. You are literally earning a 3% return on money that was never yours to begin with. That spread, combined with leverage, is the exact quiet machine that builds massive wealth using other people's money. Section 5. The compounding tipping point. This is where your patience finally pays off. Look at how this snowball effect actually works in practice. In year 1, your account grows entirely because of the manual cash you're scraping together and putting in. The market returns, they're just a tiny sliver. You feel like you're doing all the heavy lifting. By year 5, the growth is definitely visible, but you're still pushing that boulder up the hill. But right around year 12 to 15, an invisible machine turns on. Your market returns and compound growth finally outpace your manual savings. The hill takes over, and suddenly the market itself is giving you more money every single year than you are putting in manually. The absolute tragedy is that most people quit right before year 12. They get bored, they get impatient, they go out and buy a shiny new truck just to feel successful, and they reset their progress back to zero. To survive this agonizingly boring plateau, you have got to automate your investments so you don't even have to think about them. Stop obsessing over the dollar amount on your screen. Measure your consistency instead. Trust the invisible process. And absolutely never panic sell during a market downturn, because breaking that chain of compounding is the most expensive mistake you can possibly make. So why do we do all of this? Why do we endure the boring years and build these frugal habits? Well, imagine getting a phone call from your mother. Her roof is leaking and the repair bill is $6,000. She's completely panicked. If you've been running this system, you don't have to put it on a credit card. You don't have to spiral into a panic yourself. You simply transfer the money, you say, "I'll take care of it," and you sleep perfectly fine that night. That is the real payoff. Wealth isn't a shiny number on a spreadsheet. It's the capacity to show up for the people you love without panic. When you reach your late 30s or 40s, having built this financial fortress step by step, escaping chaos, rewiring your habits, buying productive assets, and just letting them compound, you experience an immense peace. You wake up one morning and you realize the future is no longer something that's just happening to you. It's something you deliberately started. 5 years from now is going to arrive whether you prepare for it or not. The time will pass regardless. So I want to leave you with this. What will your financial reality look like 5 years from today if you stop waiting for motivation and just start doing the quiet, boring work right now? The choice and the future is entirely yours.